Welcome back to Fox 5's On the Hill this Sunday. We want to take a look back at 2023 and the key issues in our region. Joining us, Robert McCartney. He is the host of the Think Regionally podcast from the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments. Good to see you, Bob.
Good to see you, Tom.
Obviously, crime has been the big story, whether you live in D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. But D.C. has really been the heart of this epidemic that we've seen in our area. There were, at the end of November, 319 carjackings in the city, 250 homicides, up by 32%, 4,961 incidents of violent crime, incidents of carjacking more than double this year, 900 carjackings in D.C., and then that number is over that. How big of a jump is this in terms of crime compared to what we saw 40 years ago during the worst of the 1980s crime wave in the District of Columbia?
Yeah, it's not as bad as it was then, but it's still up significantly from last year and the year before. Basically, it's been up pretty steadily, violent crime, since 2019, and we're seeing new kinds of crime, too. A big increase in carjackings, a big increase in organized retail theft.
Back 40 years ago, crack was fueling the crime wave back then. There were, shootouts amongst armed gangs that were going on. But, we have seen scenes like this one of late. Obviously, nobody wants to be in a city that is ridden by crime. But what is the response to this right now by the lawmakers as far as new policies, new crime? And is there an acknowledgement that maybe some of the things they did in the past may have helped this?
Right. Well, after the George Floyd murder in Minnesota in 2020, there was a big push to reform police practices and basically make it harder for police, in effect, to make it harder for police to do their jobs in order to keep them from committing horrible abuses like the one we saw with George Floyd. And now the pendulum is beginning to shift back, and there's more emphasis and more popular demand for tougher measures for the police, for increasing police presence, for lifting some of the restrictions that we saw before. And there's a big debate going on within the district right now, especially between Mayor Bowser and the council, over how far to go in giving back police powers.
And, while there was the D.C. Democratic mayor struggling with this crime issue, there was big political news over in the Commonwealth of Virginia this past year as the Republican governor, Glenn Youngkin, really laid it on the line in the elections for the General Assembly. Sometimes governors kind of stand back from those races and let the chips fall.
Not this time.
Not this time, and not this governor. Glenn Youngkin banked it all on these elections, and he lost.
Yeah, he lost big.
What happened there?
Well, Youngkin thought that that he had won so big when he won the governorship. He didn't win that big, but he did win decisively and ended a string of Democratic governorships. And he's very popular. He has good popularity ratings, and he thought that could translate into taking the Senate away from the Democrats and giving him a uniform Republican General Assembly. And he was, there was a lot of speculation that if he did that, if he was able to flip the entire General Assembly to the Republicans, that would supercharge a push for him to run for president. But it completely backfired. The Democrats won control of both houses, and now he's really been hampered going into the rest of his term.
One of the things we see as a voting trend is that people vote angry. They tend to get out and vote when there's something in particular that motivates them to do this. The Republicans in Virginia went out and said, if we are able to take complete triangular control of both houses and the governor's office, will impose a 15-week abortion restriction. Democrats called that an abortion ban, and they won on it. Was that a lesson that the calculus there may have overestimated the strength of the Republican vote in Virginia by putting it on the line what Republicans would do with the issue of abortion if they were to be elected?
Well, I think abortion was the decisive issue in the race, and Youngkin thought that he had a sort of a compromise position between, you know, the 6-week ban that you've seen, the ban after 6 weeks that you've seen in some states, and his proposal for what he thought was a common sense 15-week ban, or 15-week limit, he called it, that would get everybody on board together. But the Democrats grabbed that and said, you're trying to restrict abortion rights, and they hammered him on it, and I think it cost him the Senate.
2024 is going to see the...
excuse me, it cost him the House.
Right, the House, right. 2024 is going to see the end of the first year of Maryland Governor Wes Moore being in office. Now, a little bit different than Republican Governor Larry Hogan, who had to deal with Democrats in the General Assembly. Wes Moore has got Democrats in both houses right now. He has been out there kind of talking about what his priorities have been. Are we going to see more about what Wes Moore wants to do himself? Because when you're an incoming governor, you got to deal with the last governor's budget.
Well, the big problem Wes Moore is facing is money, lack of money. You know, everybody's suffering from the loss of funds. All governments are suffering from the loss of funds from the federal government. There was all this federal money that flowed in response to COVID, and now the state and local governments, their budgets are suddenly much tighter. And he's finding not only a problem with this loss of federal money, but also the Maryland economy has not been as robust as many of the neighboring states. It's really been kind of a laggard economically, and he's complained about that and said, look, we don't have enough money to do everything that I, as a Democratic governor, and the Democratic General Assembly would like to do. And they're really pulling in you know, they're pulling back on all these spending plans.
New General Assembly takes its seat soon. Robert McCartney, always a pleasure to have you along.
Good to be here.